Tokenized assets, including stocks, will be multi-chain natively. So the question is really, what's the best way to get started?
How long until we get a market in the US where equities pretty much trade 24 hours like crypto?
I think one way or another we'll have it within the next few years. You go from pen and paper to mainframe to on-prem to cloud, and then crypto we view as the successor to that. Prediction markets are truth machines. You can describe Cortex as sort of Robinhood's AI model, and I think that's been very, very well received. And I think where it ends is backtesting and even automated trading, which you would have had to be very, very sophisticated to do.
We all know this cycle has been driven by the institutions. If it wasn't for the institutional capital, retail would have been wrecked a long time ago in this cycle. And I've often wanted to get insights as to how the institutional players think, because that's really the future of crypto. And so I've been trying for a long time to get Vlad, the founder of Robinhood, to come on the show, just so that we could dig into his brain. We all know that Robinhood has been very, very, very active in crypto, and that they've made some really, really big moves, and they're making even bigger moves. I finally managed to get Vlad onto the show. He came here for an exclusive interview. We dig into everything to do with Robinhood and how much of Robinhood's share of mind crypto is taking, which direction the Robinhood is taking their crypto business, what they're trying to achieve, what the challenges are, which narratives Vlad thinks are going to work, and which narratives won't work. And it's really one of the most comprehensive interviews that I've done in a long, long, long time. So today I've got a very special treat for you guys. It's not our normal Friday banter. It's an interview that I've been waiting for at least 3 months. And I'm glad to say that we managed to get it. Guys, just a reminder that all our Friday banters, especially the big ones like this, are brought to you by NordVPN. And I keep saying to you guys, if you're not already using a VPN in crypto, you guys are absolutely risking your money and crazy. Click on the link below. There's a link below which gives you an exclusive offer to get a VPN. Now, for those of you who don't know what a VPN is, you see here at the top, I'm showing my IP address, which means that governments, tax authorities, dApps, this IP address is a digital footprint that I'm leaving on the internet for everyone to see. However, if you get a VPN, you can mask your IP address. Let me show you how it works. So that's what a VPN looks like. And I can pretend that I'm in Albania or Portugal. And from that point on, the system thinks that that's where I'm at. Now I'm going to stop and I'm going to actually leave because I don't want to be in Portugal. But it just shows you how easy you can mask your identity, change your IP address, and even if you want to watch like movies and stuff like that, or downloads that aren't available in your area, well, you can do that using a VPN. Guys, there's a great deal for Banter users. It's less than $3 a month, and you got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Grab it over there. And while you're doing that, you support the channel and you allow us to bring some other big guests on. All right, so now that the formalities are done, and I know you're going to do me a favor and actually get the VPN, let's get right into it. Vlad, good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you, Rand. Thank you for having me.
Vlad, you guys have been absolutely killing it. In fact, I got this today, which was that you guys are the second best performing component of the S&P 500. And I mean, I think your stock chart or your stock price actually reflects it. Why do you think? What do you think?
On the interview last week, I think last week we were number one.
Oh, we should have done the interview last week. What do you think's happened? Like, why all of a sudden have you had such incredible performance? What are the key drivers here?
I think that if you look at the financial performance of the company, what we've been able to do that I think is rather unique is growing the revenue of the business while keeping the costs down. And so you've had revenue go up 2x, revenue doubled year over year, and earnings per share tripled in that time period. And I think that's rare to see in a company that is growing so fast. So there's different financial metrics, some of which might be quite contrived that people throw out there, but rule of 40 is one. And you might have seen plotted throughout Twitter. There's analysts and retail folks that cover this. Robinhood has been an outlier in the sense of financial performance. And I think what's driven that upstream is really just launching the right products at the right time, and also improving our core offering substantially across all the three pillars of our business strategy.
So when you say launching the right product at the right time, I picked up a couple of charts. One of the charts I picked up was how many different verticals you've got generating over $100 million inside the business, and that chart is a very encouraging chart. What are the product lines that have generated the success? What do you believe are the main product lines that have generated the success?
Well, historically, we've been an active trader business. So active trading has driven a large portion of the revenue of the business. And also that's kind of the place where we've been able to introduce a lot of our innovations that have disrupted the status quo. So we started off with commission-free equities trading. We crossed over into commission-free and no contract fee options trading as well, where we're still among the only ones offering it, particularly for no contract fees. And then back in 2018, we launched crypto trading again with no commissions. So each of those businesses has become large and significant to the both top and bottom line. And we've gone from tracking our progress in terms of just raw volumes and contracts traded to looking at market share, and market share across all of those has been increasing steadily as we've made product improvements. So that's kind of the core, the active trading business. And over the past few years, we've simultaneously stayed at the frontier of active trading, both by introducing new assets like prediction markets, but also improving the capabilities of the core offering. So for example, we pioneered what we call 24-hour market, which is the ability to trade US equities round the clock, 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. And when we started, we were the only large player that had figured out how to do that. And so it's this combination of new assets, doubling down on the ones that we think will be effective, like prediction markets and futures, and also just staying at the frontier of innovation on active trading, because these are the folks that, they want to feel like they're at a disadvantage using any other platform. That's what Robinhood's building for them.
How did you navigate the 24 hours on stocks? You said you guys worked out how to do it. As far as I understand, there's security laws that prohibit the trading of securities after the market closes, or listed securities after the markets close. How do you navigate providing 24-hour trading?
Yeah, it's not a prohibition by securities law. There are ATSs that function after hours, but before we came in, the difficulty was that the integration with the core trading session was a little bit clunky, and so not a lot of people use them. So you imagine you have an ATS that's open, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., and then you do want to take advantage of the significant liquidity that's on the national stock exchanges for the rest of the time. So how do you seamlessly transition orders from one market to the other while making sure that the customers get the best experience, the best pricing, and I think the product experience of stitching that together was something that nobody had taken on up until we came in and sort of did it for, at first, a couple of dozen, but now well over 1,000 listed securities.
So in your view, how long until we get a market in the US where equities pretty much trade 24 hours like crypto? Is that something that you see happening quite soon?
Well, so now it's 24/5, and you have, some efforts to go Saturdays and holidays. And I think it's a little bit of a race between crypto technology and tokenization, which obviously can do that already for tokenized assets, and the traditional financial system. So I think one way or another we'll have it within the next few years, the capability for the mass market to trade 24/7.
So let's talk about crypto, because you mentioned crypto as being one of the products in your portfolio or in your company that really got you guys to where you're at. Specifically, when I look at your crypto market share is increasing, but it's still relatively low. I mean, it's cited in the report as 1.08% in Q3 2025. I'm wondering how you guys actually view crypto, and the reason why I say I'm wondering how you guys actually view crypto. The way I see it, there's like multiple crypto markets. The first thing is trading listed crypto assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and going down the risk curve. The second part of the market is tokenization of stocks and other assets. And then you've got the third part of it, which is, I guess, prediction markets. And I know it's not strictly a crypto narrative, but it kind of, I think it was maybe born out of crypto. And so I'm wondering how you guys, when you think about crypto, kind of wondering how much of your mind share or your share of mind is in crypto, and how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the company's revenue, double-digit percentage points of our revenue, so somewhere in the 20 to 30% range, is direct crypto revenue, which right now is largely spot crypto trading, a little bit of staking in there, and in the EU we have tokenization and perpetual futures, which we also monetize. So I think there's two different ways to look at crypto. One is as a tradable asset that active traders like to trade. And there you can kind of look at it as our options business or our equities or futures businesses, prediction markets as well. You look at our market share relative to peers, and we'd like to see that growing, obviously, as it has been, and we invest there. The other way, which I think is more interesting, is looking at it as a technology. And there, crypto is sort of next in line in this chain of technologies that have provided the foundation layer for financial services. You go from pen and paper back 50 to 60 years ago to mainframe, to on-prem, to cloud. And then crypto, we view as the successor to that at an infrastructure layer. And the way that it's better and different than cloud is that you have application logic, so exchanges, payment processors, things that would have been provided by centralized institutions, now essentially being protocol level software. And that lowers the cost of serving these services while improving the reliability. So I think the second area is more interesting, and that's where you see our investments in tokenization.
So at what level do those cross, or how much crossover is that? And what I think I mean is, how much of that is currently existing tokenized infrastructure? And one of the examples I use is, I think you guys are launching or built your own chain using Arbitrum. And how much of that is stuff that hasn't been built or hasn't got tokenization? And I think that what I'm trying to allude to is how much of that is currently investable when you talk about infrastructure. How much of that is currently investable in the open market?
So if you look in the EU, for example, we've got tokenized versions of hundreds of US equities. So if you're a Robinhood EU customer, you can onboard, and what you essentially see is that Robinhood app with the ability to invest in crypto, perps, and get exposure to equities through our stock tokens offering is entirely running on crypto infrastructure. So I think it's a great experiment to see, can we actually deliver the user experience of Robinhood, but have the underlying framework be crypto powered? And so far, it's looking really good. I mean, growth has accelerated, and it's really kicked the business into gear over in Europe.
And as I understand that technology, you're trading a tokenized version of an existing stock, which means that in the back end, you're holding a bunch of the stocks in a certain bucket or in a certain place, and you're creating tokens that represent those stocks, right?
Correct, yeah.
So how long until you believe that becomes natively on blockchain, where we can skip that second phase of taking something? Because what we're doing is extremely laborious and manual at this stage of the game. You're basically buying stocks, putting them in a bucket, and you're creating tokens, versions of them, and you're netting off the accounting. At some point, though, it probably has to become native, right? How long do you think until we actually do have versions of stocks launched on blockchain with no physical stock or no, I don't know what the correct word is, traditional stock basically listed on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people refer to that as on-chain issuance, right? On-chain issuance.
Correct.
Can a company directly go onto the blockchain rather than going through traditional means and issuing stocks, through the DTCC and having it be in the traditional financial infrastructure? My take is we're very far away from that. I think that the traditional financial industry tends to move very slowly. You have lots of counterparties, some of which are still on pen and paper. So every system has to be backwards compatible. So I think the best thing that you're going to get is two worlds where, part of your issuance can be traditionally, and you can run these like little pilot experiments that are issuing on chain, but it'll typically be for probably less than 1% of your total outstanding shares, which I think is actually a bad scenario for on-chain issuance, because if you've got 99% of the liquidity on the traditional markets and sort of this like tiny little thing there, it's not going to work as effectively. So I think what we're trying to do is unify both. If you think about how stablecoins work in a very similar way. You have a bucket of treasuries or dollars here, and you're minting and burning tokens. And we're not asking, is the U.S. government going to do native blockchain issuance of U.S. treasuries or dollars? In fact, people are really worried that there's a lot of people that want to put a lot of energy into making sure that never happens and is kind of enshrined into law. So yeah, I'm actually generally quite bearish on-chain issuance of public stocks. I think that we're very far away from that, and I don't even see it solving a huge problem.
And when you guys launched this, if I remember correctly, you guys launched this on Arbitrum. So you launched an Arbitrum fork, and you launched this on Arbitrum. Kind of interested to know how that decision was made. I mean, is it because you needed the security of Ethereum? Is there something that you couldn't get on Solana, which is monolithic and pretty fast? I'm interested to know how a company of your size and your magnitude basically decides, to use a layer 2 on Ethereum as their core technology.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And, internally, we deliberated with the decision for quite some time. I mean, we talked to pretty much all of the chains out there, and there was a choice between doing it on an existing L1, of course, building our own L1, doing it on an L2 with the flexibility of building our own. And I think that at the end of the day, you can kind of see how this shakes out with stablecoins, for example. Tokenized assets, including stocks, will be multi-chain natively. There will be bridging infrastructure. You'll be able to trade them on Solana. You'll be able to trade them on, Ethereum, of course, Arbitrum. So the question is really, what's the best way to get started? And I think to us, the best way to get started was using an existing ecosystem that offered a pretty nice glide path towards owning a lot of the infrastructure. And we own it. We wanted to own it not because we're control freaks. It's because a lot of this stuff is new, doesn't exist. So we'll have to do a lot of engineering work on the smart contracts ourselves to make it work really, really well for our customers' needs.
So Vlad, as I mentioned, you've got a 1% of crypto market share. I guess given your results, that you're looking to capture a lot more than the 1.08% there. What are your plans to capture? How do you capture the crypto native market or the crypto market share? What's the plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, number one is continuing to improve our product for retail in the US. A big chunk of that market share that you see there is actually US retail. And if you look at us globally, which of course includes all crypto trading, DeFi and CeFi, throughout the whole world. And that also includes institutional business. The number, as you see it, is a relatively small number, 1%. But if you look at us for retail only, we're actually quite large, and that's been growing. And so the growing in crypto requires us to both improve the retail offering, keep going, keep adding more assets, making the costs lower and more efficient for customers, giving access to new technologies and tools for them to get more value out of crypto, both CeFi and DeFi, but also expand internationally, grow market share there, and grow our institutional business, which we've entered through the Bitstamp acquisition, which is one of the new 100 million ARR businesses that entered the picture this quarter. You know, Bitstamp crossed 100 million in annualized. That's our first institutional business. So it's really keep improving retail and then grow institutional and ex-US, where our market share up until now has been relatively insignificant, and we see a huge room to run in front of us.
When you say you want to grow your crypto business, does that mean that you want to get your current equities traders trading in crypto? Does that mean that you want to acquire crypto newbies? Or does that mean that you want to take crypto Twitter, degen traders, this cohort that you've got in there, and migrate them to Robinhood? What's more important to you guys? What's the order of priorities?
Well, if you look at it sort of at a fundamental level, Robinhood is really, the goal is to be your primary and your secondary financial account. So we want to be able to handle all of your finances. You should be able to deposit your paycheck into Robinhood. You can have your savings and your sort of like low risk emergency fund money in Robinhood. And of course, your long-term retirement, your passively managed funds, and all of your active trading. So we do well when we fulfill all of your financial needs. And regardless of whether it's powered by crypto or not, we sort of view crypto as a technology that we should consider when we look about how to solve core customer financial needs. So if active traders can trade some instrument and crypto provides a better solution for that, then of course we're gonna dive deeper there. If crypto provides a better solution for keeping their emergency fund money safe, we're gonna integrate that. And you look at our business now, we cover a wide range of customer financial needs. The vast majority of what someone with, let's say, under $100 million net worth is doing with their money, we have some solution for. And of course, we've been increasingly serving higher tier customers with our capabilities. So it used to be that, maybe 3 years ago, when I talked to our top customers, they would have, let's say, $500,000 or $1 million in their account. Then it went to, tens of millions. And now I'm routinely talking to customers who are contemplating moving hundreds of millions into Robinhood, which I think would have been unfathomable, let's say 5 years ago, when we met over at CNBC. But the main focus is just how do we serve all of our customers' financial needs? How can we become a financial super app? And we operate across the spectrum: active trading, passive, and also just increasingly retail banking services.
Is this your customer profile today? Like the average account size, is your average account size currently $15,000 versus Interactive Brokers and Schwab around $200,000, $250,000? Is this a correct representation?
Yeah, I mean, without endorsing those numbers specifically, I think that's ballpark right. So we have about, call it $1/3 trillion under custody, so 333 billion, and about 26 million funded accounts, give or take. So
that's incredible. I mean, the growth in numbers there is absolutely astounding. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Vlad, you've been exceptionally bullish on prediction markets. I'm keen to hear how you see prediction markets. A lot of people say that it's like maybe gambling. It's on the verge of potentially gambling. How do you see, And the reason why I ask is because, prediction markets are growing really, really, really fast. And there's a lot of concern that at some point they're going to get regulated. And maybe the regulation is going to be completely unfavorable because some regulators are seeing them very much as gambling. How do you see prediction markets? How important do you think they are to the financial future? We've seen some crazy valuations being floated. I think between Polymarket and 𝗕𝗥𝗢, I think they were talking about $15 billion or valuations of up to $15 billion. Very keen to know how you see the prediction market playing out.
Yeah, I mean, first off, prediction markets are regulated. So in order to offer prediction markets in the US, they're regulated by the CFTC and the NFA as well, if you're a broker. And they cover the gamut of financial regulations, we do all kinds of surveillance and monitoring and complying with all of the federal regulations there. And that's one of the reasons why Polymarket, up until I think fairly recently, didn't have a path to offer trading in the US because the US regulates it via CFTC and they didn't have the requisite licenses, but they made the acquisition recently that unlocks the ability to do that if everything goes through there. And when you ask about sort of like, are people gonna view this as gambling? Are they gonna view it as trading? I think that this has been asked about every financial market. And I think the reason is, as you know, every financial market has speculation, right? Speculation is sort of like integral to financial markets, and you actually need it for a functional market. Not everyone can be hedging, so without folks actually making predictions about what the underlying value of the assets in the markets are, the market just breaks. So this was asked about, the futures markets back in the day. It's like, is it really, trading if you've got people speculating on the price of oil or gold? So I don't think it's a new question. What it is just a new market that opens up lots of trading contracts for retail exposure that just weren't accessible before. And I think sports are getting a lot of the attention, obviously, because sports are just super culturally relevant. But we have all sorts of contracts. I mean, you can trade AI technology contracts, like what's the best coding model, what's going to be the best general purpose large language model at the end of the year. You're starting to see company earnings related contracts, which allow you as a trader to speculate on whether a company is going to beat revenue and EPS guidelines. And if you think about it, a big problem for traders has been company blows their earnings out of the water, but then why is the stock down? And so, you have all these imperfect instruments to actually trade and execute on your point of view that I think prediction markets could address increasingly over time.
I mean, it's
That's why some people
it's anything with
market.
It's anything with an outcome, right? And anything with a date and an outcome that you can verify through an oracle is pretty much open for prediction markets. It really can be anything. I think for me, that's the part that's most exciting. I think we've created an instrument where anyone can pretty much speculate on anything as long as there's an outcome.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that there's the trading side of it, which I think is relatively small compared to the societal impact. And the societal impact is having an accurate forecast on pretty much anything. So I wrote a statement a couple of months ago and said prediction markets are truth machines. And if you look at what the world we're in, there's so much information out there. Everyone is basically on an increasingly level playing field to disseminate information, which I think is a very, very good thing. But then it creates the onus on the user to figure out what's right and what's wrong. And I think for the first time, we have technology and actually financial markets that are coming together that can solve this problem. And, increasingly people are turning to prediction markets to figure out what is the actual accurate forecast. When is this government shutdown going to end? So there's real value in disseminating that information, having an actual market and a price, not just a guess or a poll. And
I
You know,
read something.
when people say, "Oh, it's just trading," I think they sort of like miss the bigger picture.
I read something the other day which said something like polls are what you want the outcome to be, and prediction markets are where you're willing to put your money, basically. So it's like it really does, in my mind, make polls very, very, very relevant. Just put your money where your mouth is, and you'll basically get the right result. For prediction
Totally.
markets,
For people with real skin in the game, absolutely.
is this something that you guys built natively, or is this a partnership with one of the existing providers? Did you build your own predictions markets technologies and engines and stuff like that, or are you partnered with anyone?
Yeah, we did. We built our own, but we also partner. So in U.S. regulated prediction markets, the way it works is actually somewhat analogous to how the equities business works. You have two different types of regulated entities. One is essentially a broker, and the broker is responsible for managing the end customer accounts and routing to different market centers and exchanges. So in sort of like prediction markets parlance, that's called an FCM, a futures commissions merchant. And then you have DCMs, designated contract markets, which you can think of as exchanges. 𝗕𝗥𝗢 is a DCM. ForecastX, which is another one that we connect to, is also another example of a designated contract market. And they effectively provide the order books, and they also provide the contract listings and kind of the Oracle functionality. So yeah, it's a integration kind of in the same way that we route orders to different market makers and different exchanges. Our FCM business routes orders to multiple DCMs. I think the way that it's going to shake out is also similar. You'll have more and more of these players entering the market. I think there's lots of, probably I've heard over a dozen DCM applications coming in. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be great for consumers because they're going to compete with one another over contract listings, over pricing, and you're going to really see an increase in activity in this space.
Do you see a world where on the Robinhood app, anybody would be able to create a prediction market on pretty much anything, providing that somehow there was a reliable data feed? Or do you see it always being quite controlled by, quite centralized?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I could see someone trying to build this. I think to some degree in the crypto world, it's probably a little bit easier to experiment ex-US and then bring in things that work. We do take customer feedback quite strongly when we look at what contracts we want to list or make happen. And generally, I think if there's like a obvious one that a lot of customers will participate in, we try to find a way to do that and to make that happen. Now, I think the interesting question is there room for contracts that only you care about, right?
Yes.
That you yourself. And I think that will happen. So a great example is just like homeowners insurance or the things around that. Like, let's say you want to insure your house against fire or flood or any of these typical things. Well, right now you have to go to a legacy institution, kind of negotiate directly. If you want to bank, if you want to sort of like bake off different big insurance companies against one another, it takes quite a bit of time. You have to get on the phone. It's sort of cumbersome. Imagine, a quote-based prediction market where you just like send a little bit data about where you live, who you are, and then you get just that risk being priced for you in real time, and you can just make a trade and actually take advantage of that. Now, I think that a lot of things have to happen to make this possible. A lot of problems need to be solved, but you can imagine, a complete disruption of some very large markets through something like that.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about AI, because I know that you guys have got some great AI initiatives. I think probably the one that I've heard is most exciting is Cortex, right? Which is, as far as I understand, it's your AI mentor, research guide, assistant, and someone who's designed to be a companion when you're taking trades or when you're about to put through trades. Am I seeing it correctly?
Yeah, I mean, you can describe Cortex as sort of Robinhood's AI model, and you'll see it presented in different ways throughout the Robinhood experience. So one of the very simple, direct ones is we have Cortex providing stock digests. So if you've ever had the sort of like experience where you get a Robinhood notification, it says this stock is up 5% or 10% or maybe down 5%. Your immediate reaction is, let me see what's going on. And what we now have is in close to real time, like sometimes within seconds, you can go and you'll get a AI generated digest where we're telling you exactly what we think is going on with the stock, or I should say, Cortex is telling you exactly what it thinks is going on with the stock, and it cites its sources. So you can actually see the receipts, the news. We're increasingly pulling in all kinds of data to make that happen. And I think that's been very, very well received. And on the active trader front, we had a big event in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago where we announced Cortex scanners and indicators for Robinhood Legend. And the best way to describe this is, or the best way to describe where this is going is, I don't know if you've ever played around with Cursor for coding.
Yes.
But Cursor is basically like coding environment. It looks sort of like the previous tools that you used when you're an engineer. You know, you have your project and your files and you can edit the code directly, but you also have an AI sidebar that can essentially autonomously make changes to your code for you. And so it's sort of like integrated into the workflow of the engineer to dramatically accelerate their output. In the same way, I think active traders have some similarities to software engineers. Some of the really sophisticated ones are writing scripts and scans. They're overlaying their custom indicators onto the charts, and they're using those to power trading decisions. So Cortex for Legend is actually bringing that same functionality into the trader's workflow. And I think where it ends is backtesting and even automated trading, which you would have had to be very, very sophisticated to do using legacy tools, will just be done with natural language. And I think that's a very exciting future. And you should see Cortex being more and more integrated and more helpful into your Robinhood experience.
Will Cortex recommend trades for me and eventually just execute on my behalf at some point? Like, would Cortex say, hey, I think you'll be interested in taking this trade because I've monitored your last 50 trades or whatever else, and traders similar to you have made this trade, and if you, well, I mean, at some point just actually execute it?
Yeah, so right now, Cortex just gives you information and gives you options. It won't yet make a specific recommendation. And the reason is not that it can't. I mean, of course, you can ask ChatGPT and Grok and a lot of these tools for trade recommendations.
I can imagine what the reason is. I can imagine that AIs hallucinate, unfortunately. And I'd hate to, I mean, I've had some hallucinations on ChatGPT, and I'd hate for my trading AI to be hallucinating.
Well, there's certainly that practical reason, but let's assume that we can improve that, and people are willing to take the risk, which I think some will. There's making the product experience better, but also the other reason is that from a regulatory standpoint, the self-directed investing and sort of like automated investing have typically been under different regimes. So, for example, in the self-directed front, in order to make sure we stay impartial, self-directed broker, we actually don't make trading recommendations. And then whenever we do, for example, we do have a first trade recommendations product that's sort of like circumscribed in a pretty narrow domain. And then, of course, we have Robinhood Strategies, which is a digital advisor. The idea there is you just sort of like put money in and we manage everything on your behalf, and you can set some parameters to govern that. I think there is a question of, is there something in between? Like maybe you give a little bit more input than you would give to Robinhood Strategies. Maybe you point them in the direction of a specific stock and they trade that. But it's sort of like not quite self-directed. And I think, we're obviously going to explore that and make sure customers have access to products that they want and need. But I think there's a lot of there's problems, both practical and regulatory, with just unfettered AI-driven trading.
Yeah, got it. Vlad, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely insightful. I'm wary of your time as well, and our time. I think keep killing it. I think to watch your performance has been absolutely astounding. And obviously we're big investors and we're big holders of Robinhood, and we just want to see you guys continue to grow. So thank you very, very much.
Glad to hear it. Glad to be with you. And yeah, I'll just say we're still very small, right? We've got...
I think he's muted. Did you mute him?
Yeah, he's muted.
Vlad, I think you muted yourself there. Sorry, I think.
Yeah, he muted himself.
I think he muted.
No, but where's the sound gone?
It's muted. On my side, it's muted.
Yeah, it's not muted on my side. It just disappeared.
Let's cut it there. It's been great having Vlad. It's not often that we get someone like Vlad coming on the show and actually sharing so many insights. I would have liked to spend maybe 5 or 10 more minutes with him, but I'm cognizant of his time and of course your time. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.